Elly De La Cruz, superstar player, of course. We have enjoyed our time watching him already in the very early portions of his career in Cincinnati, and we feel like he has all the tools to be a future MVP. I know that there's a certain superstar player in the National League that might kind of block him from winning one anytime soon, but could MVP fatigue start to kick in for Shohei Ohtani at some point? That could play a role in this more likely scenario. We just talked about Hunter Greene a little bit ago, of course, finishing top 10 in the Cy Young voting, finishing 8th overall. He gets that $1 million incentive in his contract, of course. Had a great season. We talked earlier, I think 8 seemed kind of low, but I do think the injury and missing that last month and some change of the season, obviously not being elite right off the bat to start the season, probably played a role in that. But look, at the end of the day, as we sit here right now, we do have a pitcher that is talented enough to win a Cy Young, and we have a player that's talented enough to win an MVP for the Cincinnati Reds at this point. But which is more likely in 2025? Hunter Greene winning a Cy Young or Elly De La Cruz winning an MVP? Which is more likely, guys?
I think there's a 0% chance anyone in the National League wins the MVP next year because the guy that just went 50-50 is going to start pitching again. So I'm going to say it's Hunter Greene because I think Shohei, that MVP fatigue that you're talking about is really, I think, Elly's only chance. Because that's the only reason Aaron Judge won one. Is because people got sick of Shohei. I mean, if I told you what Shohei was doing a decade ago, you'd say, no wonder he wins every MVP. He should. We've never seen that before. But obviously, fatigue happens in every sport, or LeBron would have 20 MVPs. So I think Elly will get one at some point. I think he'll be a guy that keeps putting up these gaudy numbers, massive WAR seasons, massive stolen bases. The power's going to come at a more consistent rate. I think he'll get up to 40 home runs at some point in his career. And I think he'll win an MVP. I just don't think it'll be in 2025. I think if Hunter Greene stays healthy for 162 games and starts every game he's supposed to, he will be right there in the top 2 or 3 of the Cy Young and maybe even win it. He'll have the strikeout numbers. He'll have the crazy highlights. He'll have the no-hitters. He'll have the all those low-number games that you want out of a pitcher to be in that conversation. Hunter Greene's going to have it all as the ace of the Reds. I think it's more likely that he wins the Cy Young.
I think it's more built for Hunter Greene to win a Cy Young. He gets strikeouts at a high volume.
Right.
After this season, you're gonna see, or at least you have the belief that he is going to be the pitcher that throws 7 innings a game. I just think it's easier for him. We talk about the path, the percentages. I think the percentage is higher because it's just vastly more difficult for Elly De La Cruz to win a MVP with Shohei Ohtani still in the league. I think Hunter Greene's a damn good pitcher. I think he's phenomenal, truly. If he stays healthy for an entire season, if he was healthy the entire last season, he finishes top 3, in my opinion. He finishes top 3 for sure in the NL. I would say that Elly is elite. We all know this. He's a superstar. But until he gets the power numbers back, I don't think he's going to be able to win MVP over Shohei. If he can go 40-80, then yeah, he's going to win an MVP. But I need those home runs to keep bumping up. And he's by the way, so young. So young, Elly De La Cruz is. So there's plenty of time for him to be able to get there. You just got to give him. I mean, you got to wait. It sucks. You just got to wait till Shohei retires.
Brady Dunlap in our chat says you can't have an MVP with 29 errors like Elly had at shortstop last year. If you move him to the outfield, he probably leads the league in assists and has fewer errors, which puts him more firmly in that conversation. I couldn't disagree more. I think Elly's errors wouldn't have played a factor at all last year in the MVP conversation. I think he finished pretty high. I think it's the strikeouts is the thing for me that if he brings that down as getting on base more, it would just increase the stolen bases, which is what he needs to get back higher in that conversation. I also think diminishing the position he plays on defense would hurt him because he plays the most important position on the field right now, and he does it at a very high level defensively, which I think boosts him even more. I mean, when you look at MVP, you're not just going to look at the home runs and the stolen bases. Elly was the 4th best defensive shortstop in the MLB this year in terms of outs above average, and that's going to go into that conversation. He could be one of the best outfielders in the league. The best defensive shortstop would get a nod over that. So I think him playing shortstop and playing it, in all honesty, pretty similar to the way he played it last year. Clean up some of the routine mistakes, but I'll take more errors for a lot of the plays that he made last year. That makes him who he is. I'm willing to roll the dice on a lot of that stuff. I think Elly at shortstop is by far his best chance to win an MVP.
So the most fascinating thing about Elly De La Cruz is the fact that, like, if you compare him to Shohei Ohtani, they have nothing in common. And I think that's the best thing. That's the best thing happening for Elly De La Cruz. And what I mean by that is the strengths of each player. I mean, right now, when you look at Shohei Ohtani, the most dominant player in baseball has to be him. There's no doubt about it. But with the MVP, and again, the debate about how people truly vote on these, do they follow what the model of this should be, the most valuable player? I'm not saying that I wouldn't guarantee that the Dodgers would have won a World Series without Shohei last year, but they still would have probably at least been in the National League Championship Series and most likely probably still in the World Series. Who knows? But I don't know if Shohei, who goes to the most, like, I will say this, if Soto does end up with the Dodgers, I don't see Shohei winning MVP next year because I think it's tough for anyone to win MVP on the Dodgers when you have a all-star roster. Now, they had an all-star roster last year, I get that, but who else in the National League was truly bumping up numbers next to him to really challenge it? If Elly De La Cruz is in that conversation, that means obviously his steals are through the roof, which they always have been, but that means you're right. They bring the strikeout numbers down. The errors cleaned up a little bit. Very good defensively at shortstop. Yeah. If he's one of the best defensive shortstops, brings the strikeouts down, and is one of the most exciting players on the base paths while knocking the ball out of the ballpark, that is a completely different field of interesting than what you see from Shohei Ohtani. Both are fantastic, but the only way Elly does that is if Terry Francona, now the manager there, has this team playing at a level that they're competing for the playoffs, possibly winning the NL Central. If that is the case, I really can't see Elly winning an MVP next season if that is the case. But Jacob, I'm with you. When Shohei Ohtani adds the pitching numbers on top of everything he did last year, which was one of the all-time great seasons, it's going to be tough to top that, but I think everyone loves a good storyline. Shohei's a great storyline, but we've seen that story rolling for a bit. The pitching will be new with the Dodgers. That element will definitely help. But, man, if Elly does this on a winning Reds team, I mean, Elly was starting to get to the MVP conversation last year on a bad Reds team. Imagine Elly on a good Reds team when they're getting all those bigger ESPN games and Fox games, and you have Terry Francona as the manager. It's a storyline-driven type of award as well, like most. I definitely could see him coming away with that next year. Hunter Greene, I need to see him be healthy for a bigger chunk of the season. That's the other problem I have. I think he's more equipped to win it right off the bat next year than Elly. Elly has a lot more ground to cover, but I also worry about the health and stamina of Hunter Greene when it's all said and done. I like Hunter Greene's chances to win it next year if the Reds are competing at a high enough level for him to be put on that platform.
I think the thing with both of these questions, Elly MVP and Hunter Greene Cy Young, if the Reds are competing for the playoffs, not only will that record help them, the Reds aren't going to be competing for the playoffs without elite years from Hunter Greene and Elly De La Cruz. Yep. Like there's no way the Reds are in the playoff hunt without them playing well. I mean, we're saying that they need the record in order to be considered for those awards, but those two things go hand in hand. I think Hunter Greene's going to pitch great next year. I think the Reds are going to be in the hunt, and I think both these guys are going to be top 5 in their respective awards. I think they're going to be absolutely near the top of the league, and even if they don't win it, there's going to be a hell of a cash-out opportunity for a lot of Reds fans. I'm going to be on both of these, no question about it.
I actually disagree with you, Kinner. I think you said that Shohei Ohtani, it's hard to see you win an MVP, or it's hard to see him win an MVP on a team that's just filled with other MVPs. I think Elly's biggest knock, or one of Elly's biggest knocks, is that nobody else on the team is helping him. I think when you have to do it all by yourself, I think it's a different mindset. When you constantly have nobody on base, I think that's a massive detriment. If you have several all-stars on your team that you know are going to be able to be driven in by Shohei Ohtani, that's everything. Like Joey Votto, despite what those Reds teams were, they had guys that could get on base a little bit. Like that's at least what I saw. And then you have last year Elly De La Cruz. It seemed like it was him versus the world at times. Sure, you had the Jonathan India month where he was really hot. Outside of that, there wasn't a lot of good offense last year, and I think that hurts Elly De La Cruz more than anything, because when he's not a leadoff hitter, at least he probably won't be next year. He's hit in the leadoff position, so nobody fact checks me. But I do think he's like a 3-4 hitter, and you need people on base. You need to be able to drive runs in. You need to be able to create opportunities. When it's just you out there, it's far more difficult to create those opportunities unless you're hitting 60 home runs, which he's not.
No. And last thing on that, too, I agree with you. Last year, not having a lot of help. But if the Reds are contending, guys will be contributing more. But what I like is they won't be contributing at the level that you're going to be getting from Freeman and possibly Soto and some of those other elite weapons that are on that Dodgers roster. So it's like, yes, Shohei's going to have a lot more. And by the way, the pitching numbers, as good as what he was with the Angels, he's going to have way more defensive help with him with the Dodgers. So I think his pitching numbers could be even significantly better than what they were with the Angels because of the help he has around him defensively. On top of that, he will have that help. But like I said, kind of to piggyback off what you said, Elliot, He will not have as much help. He will not have as many good players around him to help prop up his numbers the way Shohei does. But that's why any success that Elly does have makes it even more impressive to me because of the lack of help that he has around him to help prop him up. Hopefully Matt McClain is more healthy this year. Hopefully they go get some help in the outfield from not just a defensive standpoint, but from an offensive standpoint too, to help with the bat in their hand. It's going to take a whole team effort for Elly to ever win an MVP. That's why I never really bought into it last year. I never really bought that, he could play his way into the MVP race because I just didn't think that the Reds were good enough. He's good enough. Are the Reds going to be good enough? I think that's what it comes down to when it's all said and done.
No, you're right. But my issue with Elly is what's the ceiling probably, if we're talking about like the best season possible. Top defensive shortstop in all advanced metrics, 40-80?
40-80.
40-80, and he's cleaning up the strikeouts and the errors. That's not beating 30-30 with a 3-5 and 15 wins.
Yeah.
Like even the ceiling. And if they get Soto, not just will it help Shohei be protected in the lineup batting, but those wins as the starting pitcher are just going to skyrocket. And that's always what he was missing in LA. He had the ERA and the strikeouts and all those different things, but he wasn't able to get the pitcher wins. What happens if he goes 20-20-20? Stolen bases, home runs, pitcher wins.
Yeah.
That'd be incredible. Like, I think all that stuff's on the table for Shohei. And if we didn't have that, if he wasn't pitching, I'd be very confident in Elly next year. Craig does put something in the chat, which definitely does come into play for this. Shohei's been injured a ton in his career. He could get hurt next year, miss significant time, and then that opens the door for just about everybody. But then you have to consider if Shohei's out of the Dodgers lineup, more eyes get put on Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, maybe Juan Soto. I mean, we all remember Shohei Ohtani as the locked-up MVP with months left to go in this season. At one point, Mookie Betts was minus 400. Like, the Dodgers just have a ton of different guys that can win this award, much bigger names. So I think even outside of Shohei, there's just so much competition in the NL, and I'm less confident in the Reds being an all-around competitor, and I think that's what's going to hold Elly back.
And that's what drives me nuts, though, because if you talk about most valuable, like, we know dominant-wise, that's Shohei. But if you take Shohei off the Dodgers, they've won a World Series without him. Like, how valuable
They won this
is
World
he?
Series without him.
I mean, to me, I felt like he was more valuable on the Angels than what he is on the Dodgers because the Dodgers are good enough to win it with or without him. The Angels, their best chance of being good, and they weren't good when he was there, I get that, but he still won those MVPs. The best chance they had was him being good. The Dodgers don't have to have him being dominant as a pitcher and a hitter for them to be good. Elly, if he's not dominant, if he's not good defensively at shortstop, if he's not good on the base paths, if he's not good with the bat in his hand, the Reds take a major step back in preventing them from being able to accomplish their ultimate goal, which is hopefully to get to the postseason in 2025.
Yeah,
but
it'd be really cool if the MVP in any sport went to the most valuable player.
That's how it should be.
It'd be awesome.
Because it's not the same. Like LeBron, I know everyone says, he went and joined up with super teams. If you just take the Miami Heat era out and just go back to his first run in Cleveland, towards that back end, should have won it probably 3 or 4 straight years during that stretch because that truly was. You take him off, that team will not succeed. You take Shohei off the Dodgers, they'll succeed. That's the problem I have with Shohei winning the MVP from that standard when it's all said and done. So, hell, even Judge. I think you take Judge off the Yankees, they're a different team. Look, he was on the roster in the World Series, but when he wasn't hitting the ball, the Yankees couldn't compete with the Dodgers. Like, they need him to be able to compete. I don't know if the Dodgers truly need him when it's all said and done.